Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Day 2 Buenos Aires Open Center annual seminar for teachers. Thank you very, very much for joining us again today. And for those of you who were not here with us yesterday, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Monica Marenzi, Senior Academic Consultant for Buenos Aires Open Center. Congratulations to all these wonderful teachers who are working so hard in these difficult times, trying to make your classes enjoyable. We hope that with these webinars, we can help you a little bit. I would like to remind you that a recorded version of these webinars will be available for 7 days. You can use the chat to ask questions, and we will try to answer as many as possible. Certificates of attendance at the end of this webinar, you will receive an email with instructions on how to download the certificates of attendance. And we also have raffles, 10 online courses for teachers, which will be raffled on Saturday. Now, I'd like to introduce Clara Nasta. Clara will be talking about Michigan language assessment exams. Clara is Center Exams Manager for Michigan exams at Buenos Aires Open Center. Later, and holds an MA in English language teaching and applied linguistics from King's College, University of London. Clara has worked extensively in the field of ELT and assessment for the last 20 years. Welcome, Clara. Enjoy her presentation.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you see me there? Hello.
Clara, we can see you. All right.
Yes.
You just need to share your start your presentation. Okay. We can see your screen right now,
Okay.
but it's not in presentation mode.
All right. Let me do that right now. Can you see it now?
Yes, that's perfect. Yes.
Okay. And you can see me?
Yes.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure being here with you this afternoon. Thank you for joining. Well, as Monica mentioned, I'm Clara, Clara Nasta. I'm the Center Exams Manager for the Michigan Language Test, Michigan Language Assessment Test at Buenos Aires Open Center. And well, I'll be talking to you about the different assessment options by Michigan this afternoon. This is a summary of today's presentation. First of all, I'll be talking about Michigan language assessment. I mean, what it means, the joint venture between two very well-known and prestigious universities. Then I'll be talking about the assessment options by Michigan, and I'll be also explaining the principles, very briefly, of multi-level testing. I will be focusing on tests for teenagers and adults this afternoon. So I'll be presenting on MEDCO, MED, and ECPE specifically. Okay, let's get started then. Who we are, right? What is Michigan language assessment? Well, this is a joint venture between two universities, Cambridge Assessment English and the University of Michigan. As you know, they are very well known for their research programs, for the quality of their work, and also for their tests. Let's have a look at the history behind this joint venture. Well, as you know, Cambridge started working on the field of assessment in 1913 with the release of the ECPE. The University of Michigan, that university, was founded in 1817 in Detroit. After some time, they moved to Ann Arbor. This is where the University of Michigan today has its main campus, in Ann Arbor. In 1941, the activity on English language assessment started at the University of Michigan with the ELI, with the foundation of the ELI, which is the English Language Institute. This department was established with the purpose of starting a project on teaching language as a foreign language teaching English as a foreign language in the United States, and also developing assessment for those courses. In 1953, the ECPE, the examination for the Certificate of Proficiency in English, was first administered in Michigan. And that was the first exam for students of English as a foreign language that was administered. It coincides with the fact that the first exam by Cambridge was also a C2, well, what we know now as a C2. Of course, the CFR did not exist at the time, but it was the first two exams that both universities released were top-level exams. And then in 2010, Cambridge and Michigan decided to join forces, and they formed Cambridge Michigan Language Assessment, first known as CAMLA, now known as Michigan Language Assessment. They started working together. Experts from both universities formed a department of assessment development, and they created a whole line of exams, of certificate exams, which are all aligned to the CEFR. They cover all levels of the CFR, and they also are targeted at different ages. There are exams for kids, for teenagers, and for adults. There are certificate tests, that is, tests that assess language at a specific level, and there are multi-level tests. Those are, for example, the MET Go and the MET. Our focus today, as I told you earlier, will be exams for teenagers and adults. And so we'll be talking about MET Go, MET, and ECPE. At Buenos Aires Open Center, you know, we have a lot of experience in the administration of exams. We know the educational context very well as regards the teaching of English. And we thought that these options by Michigan could be very appropriate to our educational context. This is why we chose to concentrate on these tests. So I also told you at the beginning that as I was going to explain some very basic facts about multi-level testing, right? Well, as you know, or maybe you've heard or you have found out, multi-level tests are suitable for mixed ability or mixed level classes because of their nature of catering for different needs and streaming across more than one level of the CFR. They can fit a classroom of students that have different levels of performance across skills. Because you know that students have differences in the way they learn, in the way they can produce language. Sometimes they are better at reception. Some students take longer to be able to express all they know. Well, and so in that case, multi-level tests can come in handy. They are not attached to a specific syllabus. That gives them flexibility, and they can be administered in different courses or different levels at schools. They based their content on the ability progression proposed by the CEFR rather than on specific table of contents of specific areas of vocabulary or grammar or different aspects of language. Modularity is also a characteristic of MET-Go and MET, which are the Michigan multi-level tests. Modularity means that candidates do not need to take the 4 skills that the exam includes. For example, in the case of MET-Go, they can go for 3 skills: reading, listening, and writing, and speaking is optional. And in the case of MET, they can take a 2-skill format test or a 4-skill test. Then I will be explaining to you the different options as I go deeply into each test. Well, also a multi-level test serves different purposes. It can be used as a diagnostic test before students are placed in a course. They can be used at the end of a course to measure progress, or they can be an exit test, for example, at the end of secondary school, at the end of primary school, or at a certain point in the educational ladder where you want to have a measure of the students' progress. Another very important thing is that all the students in the class can access the certificate because they are not pass or fail tests, but rather every candidate gets a certificate with a certain score that they earn for each skill they take, and that score relates them to the CFR level they are at. So different students in the class may be taking the test, and then they won't all get the same result, the same score and same level, but they will all get a certificate. They will all be able to prove the level they have achieved. Let's start with MET-Go. So this is one of the 2 multi-level tests that Michigan offers. It's a test for teenagers, for young teenagers, that is pre-adolescents, end of primary school, beginning of secondary. As you see there, it is targeted at students between 11 and 15 years old. It's a multi-level secure test that covers 3 levels of the CFR, A1, A2, and B1. So from an elementary level to an intermediate level, at always within the context of teenagers. And it's a secure test. I don't know whether you are familiar with that, but a secure test is a test that is administered under rigorous security measures. Different versions of the test are produced for one sitting, and for every sitting, the versions are different. Well, there are a number of things, a number of requirements that make for a secure test. The tasks that you will find in the test are authentic, taken from, now I'm going to show you some samples. You will see the reading text, the listening extracts are all by adolescents. For example, the voices of the listening are by students or adolescents the same age as the test takers. And also when they have to do the reading, maybe they encounter a message, a WhatsApp message. That's the kind of source that is included to make it quite realistic and attractive for teenagers. The exams are contain full color illustrations, so they are very attractive too. And another interesting point from the point of view of administration is that whenever there is a group of a certain number of students that want to take the test, well, there are dates available on demand. So we don't have to adjust so strictly to an international calendar, but rather we can choose some dates, of course, depending on the fact that we have a number of students to take the test on that day. So that also gives the whole thing quite a lot of flexibility. Well, as I told you, the MedGo tests the 4 skills, and the skill of speaking is optional. So reading, listening, and writing are mandatory, and speaking is optional. This may be an asset in groups where you have, for example, a limited number of contact hours at a school, and or you have a very different combination of levels in the class, so it makes it difficult for you as a teacher to really develop all the 4 skills in all candidates. Well, they may go for only the written part and not the speaking. So some students who are not so strong, they are shy, or they have special characteristics and they don't want to take the speaking part. Well, that will not prevent them from being tested. Here you have some specifications about the different parts of the test. Listening and reading are come in combination. They are one whole set. Those 2 parts together last 60 minutes, 30 minutes per part, and multiple choice questions are the tasks that they have to fulfill in the listening and reading. I'm going to show you some samples in a minute. Then there is the writing part that lasts 30 minutes, and students have to perform 3 tasks. They have to produce a very simple story. Then they have to respond to or produce an email or write a response to an email, and then express, it would be like an introduction to what will in the future be an essay, the famous essays that they will have to write. It's like an opinion paragraph or something like that. Of course, as you will have different students with different levels taking the test, the production that you will get in the writing and in all the parts, but in the writing part, you will be able to see the differences across different levels. So the story will be more or less elaborate depending on the level the students have, and so the same will happen with the opinion piece, and also with the message or the email they have to write. That's why the prompts are ample enough for different students of different levels to be able to respond to that. And also that, of course, is taken into account when rating the work of the students. The speaking in the METGO is a one-to-one format, 1 speaker, 1 examiner. In all multi-level tests, you don't have pairs of candidates in the speaking section because you are dealing with different levels. So it wouldn't be fair to pair them up, right? So it's a one-to-one interaction. There are prompts There are pictures that students use to trigger ideas and to start talking about different topics. All the Michigan tests, by the way, I tell you, are administered by, the speaking part is administered by speaking examiners who are trained locally and who are certified by the university. All the tests, the speaking tests, are audio recorded, and those recordings are sent to the university for them to check. The marks are applied and assigned by the speaking examiners when the test finishes here, and the marking is submitted, but also the recordings go to the university. This happens in all the Michigan tests. So to sum up, you have 90 minutes for the written parts and an 8 to 10 minute speaking interview. That would be MEDCO. Here you can see, as I was telling you, this is a copy of the exam booklet. It's in full colors. This is what I was telling you about the text they have to read. They try to include images that will be attractive to teenagers. For example, a message on their cell phone, as realistic as possible. And then something quite interesting is also the way candidates get their feedback once they have done the test. In all tests by Michigan, students receive a score report and a certificate. In the score report, they get a detailed description of the scores they got for each section and how those scores relate their level to the CEFR levels that are covered by the test. That's the score report. On the reverse of the score report, students who take MEDCO receive a very something quite innovative, because it is a personalized information sheet about their performance. So you won't find two that are the same, because they are really based on the raters' conclusions about the students' performance. So they get comments on the aspects that they have covered successfully, and also tips on the areas they should improve and ideas for improving. So that is something that adolescents find really nice, and they feel that, well, it's not just a number that they get or a letter or of the A, B, A1, B2, something a bit cold, but rather, of course, rigorous information. I mean, statistics, numbers, letters, but also some comments that have to do with their very own performance. Of course, well, all students receive a certificate, because this is not a pass or fail test. There are other Michigan tests where it's a traditional way, and they not all of them get a certificate, because they are assessed on a pass or fail basis. But here, rather, they get like an X-ray of their capacity, and so all of them receive certificate and score report and their individualized report. And the certificate and the score report both feature the logos of the two universities. Okay, I think this is all about MET Go. Now I'll be telling you about MET. Some people call it the MET, Michigan English Test. Well, this is another multi-level test aimed at older adolescents, young adults, and adults in general. It also covers different levels of the CFR. You have them there below, from A2 to C1. It is a secure test. The dates for these tests are not on demand, but there are dates every month. So every month there is a date available to take the test. So I told you already about the levels of the CFR that are covered. It is one test, one assessment instrument that is used to assess students of different levels, because the difficulty across the test varies, and it is designed in such a way that all the students that are within those levels can perform according to the prompts they get. Of course, their performance will vary according to their level, and they will be assessed and informed on their results accordingly. Again, the certificates feature both logos. And as I told you before, this is a modular test, so it is available in two possible formats. Students may take only listening and reading, that is receptive skills, or take the 4 skills. This could be useful, for example, when you are teaching in companies, you're teaching adult courses. Sometimes they have specific requirements. They need to improve their English, but in certain areas, they are urged to get better at listening or reading or maybe speaking, and they are not so interested in other skills. So this may be quite practical and useful for adult students just outside school who need to concentrate on developing a specific skill. They may also make that choice when they have to enroll for the test. The format of the MET is paper-based. It comes, as I told you, in these 2-skill or 4-skill format. There are, if the student takes the 4 parts, they will have to sit for the writing part, and the speaking, it may be on the same date, or the speaking may be administered on a separate day. But usually all 4 skills are rendered on the same day. The topics that the MET covers are taken from social, workplace, and educational domains. It is an exam that serves the purpose of assessment for academic and for employment purposes. This is a description of the sections. Here you have the receptive skills, listening test, reading test, overview, right? In the listening part, they have 3 sections. First, they listen to shorter conversations, then those conversations become longer, and then they are exposed to longer chunks, monologues by experts in different fields talking about different things. The last part of the test, of the listening test, tends to be the most challenging. And but anyway, within all the parts, you get questions that are simpler and questions that are more complex, because it is a multi-level test. It takes about 35 minutes to complete the listening, and the task type is selected response or multiple choice, 50 selected response questions. Well, in the reading part, there is a specific grammar section. So grammar is tested in isolation, and I will show you. This is an example of the grammar part of the MET. They get different isolated sentences with blanks, and then they have to choose the right option. Then they have reading passages, reading per se. So they have reading passages, extended reading passages, and then sets of thematically linked shorter texts. Here you can have a look. This is one of the extended reading passages on one topic. and then they get multiple choice questions. The format, this multiple choice question task type, makes the exam quite friendly for any test taker, without the need to spend much time training them to master very specific task types. This is also this is an example of the shorter thematically related texts. They may get 2 or 3 shorter texts on a specific topic. So 2 extended pieces and 2 sets of shorter texts that are related in theme. Well, then, so the core part of the MET is, you see, listening and reading. If you want to take the minimum skills are those. Those are mandatory. And then you may also take writing and speaking. The writing part lasts about 45 minutes. And there are 2 tasks. First, they get 3 short questions related in topic that they will develop according to their level. Not because the questions are simple or short. It means that higher level students will fail to show their complex language, right? So it is very interesting to see that from a normal, simple questions, you may get quite elaborate answers according to the higher or lower level the student has. And then they have to write an essay, a short essay, usually an opinion essay. The speaking test, again, is on the one candidate, one examiner format. They have 3 tasks based on a picture. First, they have to describe a picture. Then they will be asked to relate some personal experience that has to do with the topic of the picture. And then they will have to give an opinion. As you see, the candidates who have a higher level will be able to show greater ability in expressing their ideas. So for those who have a lower level, there is a picture description, and they will probably be limited to just mentioning what they can see. They will be able to somehow articulate their personal experience. Maybe they will have more difficulty with the opinion part, but the fact that these different functions of language are elicited cater for the multi-level aspect of the test. And then in part 2, they will have to talk about advantages and disadvantages of something related, again, to the topic of the picture. And they will have to come up with a convincing argument on something that has to do with the topic they are discussing. Again, the last parts of the test will be developed fully by higher level students. And the whole interview lasts about 10 minutes. This is an example of the writing, the shorter questions on a related on the same topic, and then a statement on which they have to express an opinion, or maybe talk about the 2 sides of an argument. Well, it can be very boring to start showing you different parts of an exam. So I just kept it to the idea of giving you an idea of what the task may look like. Then, of course, I will be giving you details of where you can access all the materials, the sample tests, the audios for the listening, and very useful resources that you have on the website, on the Michigan website. Okay, so far, multi-level tests. MET Go for younger teenagers, MET for older teenagers and adults. Now, another exam by Michigan that we consider quite good and convenient for maybe the last years of secondary school or students who are starting their first years of university, and they have come a long way in their learning of English. Maybe they have already certified a B2. They may have already certified also a C1, but they'd like to go further because they like English, because they feel that they can do something more. And then, so ECPE, which is a proficiency level test, a C2 level test, is an option by Michigan. Well, ECPE stands for Examination for the Certificate of Proficiency in English. It is aimed at a C2 level. This is not multi-level. This is a certificate test, and it tests this level. It has academic and occupational purposes. I mean, the certificate is accepted by universities, employers, government agencies. That has to do with recognition. I will later on talk a little bit about recognition and the universities around the world and the agencies that accept the Michigan test. As I told you, it could be used at the end of secondary school or with university students or adults in general. It is a pass-fail exam, and it tests the 4 skills. The idea is to test, the idea behind ECPE is to test English at an advanced level, but with a focus on real-life situations. Sometimes when we reach this level of proficiency, students encounter very specific vocabulary, very sophisticated vocabulary. They end up learning very long lists of vocabulary and then forgetting about those because they are not so frequent. So the idea with ECPE is to make them demonstrate a very high level of mastery of the language, but applied to situations they may encounter at work or when studying a degree course at a university or a postgraduate course. Let's see. Okay. We have a brief description of the sections of the ECPE. The 4 skills are covered when there's a listening part with multiple choice questions. They listen to shorter exchanges, sometimes phrases, and they have to produce a reaction to that phrase, and then longer pieces on more specific topics. But the task type is multiple choice. GCVR, what a name. Well, that actually stands for grammar, close, vocabulary, and reading. So the reading part includes more than reading. There is a specific section to test grammar, another set of closed tests, then a vocabulary section separate from the grammar and the close, and a reading part with specific reading passages. The task type is, again, multiple choice. Sorry. Writing. In this part, they have to produce an essay. They have 30 minutes to complete this task, to write this essay. The ECPE is going to be revised. I mean, it is under revision this year, and in 2021, we'll have a revised version of the test. One of the changes that have been proposed is that the writing will last longer. It will last 45 minutes, because it has been seen that in order to be able to really show mastery in using more complex structures and lexis, students need more time. So they will extend that section. Among other changes, that if you are interested, there are some articles on the revisions that will be implemented on the Michigan website, and I can send you by email more details. The speaking, in the case of ECPE, is an interview with 2 speaking examiners and 2 candidates, 2 or 3. You know, when there is an uneven number of candidates, there are groups of 3. And it takes about 25 to 30 minutes to complete the oral interview. It's quite long because it involves 5 stages, and students have to perform a presentation. It mirrors what could be a presentation they could have to do in a job. They are faced with prompts, and this is, for example, a prompt for you to see. This is a prompt that a candidate in the speaking test would get. Usually they are faced with 2 options for something. They usually have to imagine that they are part of a group that has to decide on something. And they are, well, faced with options, with descriptions, and they go along different stages where first they describe, they explain, then they have to show arguments in favor, they have to discuss with their partner. So lots of functions of language that take place in real life are present in the speaking test. And it is administered by 2 examiners. Again, they are certified by the University of Michigan, and the interview is recorded. Here is a sample of the writing for the ECPE. They are, candidates are given 2 topics, a choice of 2 topics, but they have to write one single essay. They have to choose one of the topics and write on one. And the focus of assessment is overall effectiveness, topic development, organization, range, accuracy, appropriateness of grammar and vocabulary. We may agree that these features are present in a candidate that should be present in the performance of a candidate that sits for a C2 level exam. So this is what they are reminded of this before they actually write their essay. Okay, well, that would be it as regards my description of the exams. And now, well, as I told you, recognition is also an important part of any international exam. If you access the Michigan assessment website, you will see there is a special section devoted to recognition by different institutions. And you have lists that go country by country, and for example, in the case of the United States, you have state by state the names of the universities that recognize the different exams, also in Europe and all around the world. I think, well, you have scholarship agencies, because the exams are used for different purposes, right? Names of higher education institutions, tertiary institutions, universities, employers, so on and so forth. And another very important aspect of any examination board is to provide support to both test takers, candidates, and also teachers, preparation centers. So the team at Michigan have developed interesting, modern, and very dynamic resources to support the preparation of exams. Something important to bear in mind is that the multi-level tests, for example, being general in their approach to assessment, do not exactly require the use of very specific bibliography or certain course books, but rather any source that the teacher uses, books, internet. You know that now we have become so versatile in all the materials we use. Well, so we don't have to worry much about the books we are using if we have in mind one of these tests for our students. Something that we do have to bear in mind is that the input is American English, not that the students are expected to produce an American accent or any American, well, the American spelling, but they have to be consistent. They have to produce correct English, but what they will read, the text they will read, are taken from American sources. The listening they will be exposed to is American, because the exams are produced in the United States. But as it happens with Cambridge exams, not one accent or language type is expected. English is English and it's global, and we're not going to be specific about that. And well, so in the Michigan page, website, teachers and candidates, because it is divided, you will have a section for teachers and a section for candidates, will find materials. That is sample tests, recordings of and videos of oral interviews, the key to the sample, the audio to do the listening. Also very useful, the rating scales for writing and for assessing writing and for assessing speaking. And also videos for teachers on developing different skills for the different exams. That is professional development opportunities for teachers. There are free seminars and webinars that are offered. It has, Michigan also publishes lots of materials on their Facebook page. And they also offer a subscription to a newsletter. So you may subscribe for just keeping up to date with the latest materials they produce. There is also a preparation center membership program. So if you are a teacher preparing someone to take these exams, or a language school, or a school, you may apply to be a preparation center, a member preparation center. All that you will access on the michiganassessment.org website. Recently, last year, more specifically, these books were developed by Michigan Publishing, and they are compilations of sample papers for MET and MET Go. So these are quite new. They came out last year, and they, for the moment, they can only be bought online through the publishing site or publishing branch of Michigan. Also, you get information about how to buy these materials on the website. They are preparing now books for ECPE and for ECCE and other exams. Locally, in the bookstores here in Buenos Aires, you don't find these because they are very new, and with all this pandemic thing, some conversations had been started to bring the books so that teachers and candidates would access the books in the bookstores. But that is, I mean, being talked about. But you know, the situation importing books is difficult. But anyway, you may find some other books that have been produced earlier by other publishers, especially for ECPE. There are some books with practice tests and also course books. Then we can send you that information more specifically. Okay, this is a summary, right? MET Go, MET, multi-level exams, the ages for those tests, and the format, modular exams also. MET Go with their speaking, which is optional, and they MET two skill or 4 skill format. ECPE, a certificate test at C2 level for students who are 16 or onwards, and the 4 skills are tested. It's a pass or fail exam. Okay, now I think the time has come for some questions. Belén.
Thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. We do have some questions. I think most of the answers you have already given at the end, because most of the questions have to do with mock exams and if they're available online. You know, I think you talked a little bit about sample papers. Are these available for all Michigan exams?
Yes, yes, they are available for all. I mean, this year especially, they have been adding 2 or 3 different versions for each exam. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you just browse the page last year, you enter now, you will see new material. And also, as I was telling you, they have produced study at home packs that are so necessary now for developing writing, for example, writing for MET, study at home pack, or the same for ECPE. So all that material is available on the website for free.
Perfect, perfect. And you also mentioned something about material being available here in Argentina. Do you have an estimated date, or that's still very far from us?
Well, the thing is that, well, these books that I showed you before, let me go to that. These were just released September 2019, and they were only available to be bought online. And in February, some publishers look at distributors in Argentina and the Michigan people. I was also involved in that. We started talking about how they could come to Argentina, because it's better to maybe to have them at the bookstore. And well, those conversations are being held, but we don't have a date. But they can be bought online.
All right, perfect. And we're going to share the link to the Michigan website. Can you repeat it so that everyone listens to that?
I'll show it too. Let me see. It's here at the top. It's, well, www.michiganassessment.org.
Perfect. We will share it now on the in the chat box, all right, so that everyone can access that. Mm-hmm. There was one more question about where can we find detailed information about MET Go. That is available on the website as well, right?
Yes, on the website as well. And there are also studies. Well, I mean, there are sample tests, there are lots of things, but there are also studies on how students have reacted to this test in different countries, because we have to take into account, this is a very, very new test. It was released in November 2018. And as it has some very specific and new characteristics, well, some studies were conducted, and so there is the research there.
Right, perfect. Well, I think that those are all of the questions we have. Let me check. Yes, that's all. So I'm going to give it back to Monica. All right.
All
so
right.
Thank you so much, Clara.
Thank all of you. Thank you for being there. Thank you to all the team.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Clara. That was really interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much. Coming up next at 5:30 p.m. is Lisandro Terenzi with his presentation El inglés como competencia en el contexto global. ¿Por qué evaluarlo es esencial? If you have already signed up for this presentation, you should have received an email with the link to access this session. If not, you will now find the link in the chat box. Join us in a couple of minutes. See you next presentation. Thank you.